the mind's invisible trap, when certainty becomes the lie. What if I told you that the greatest enemy of knowledge isn't ignorance? That would sound completely wrong at first, right? I mean, ignorance is the absence of knowledge, the blank page before any learning begins. But stay with me. What if I told you the real enemy is something far more sinister, something that pretends to be knowledge, that feels like certainty, but blinds us more than any blank slate ever could? You've probably felt it before. That moment when you were sure you knew something, only to realize later you had no idea what you were talking about. That's not ignorance, that's illusion. And illusion is powerful. It doesn't just delay knowledge, it replaces it with a lie. Here's the thing, ignorance is honest. It says, I don't know. And from that humility, we can grow. But illusion says, I already know, and stops us cold. You can teach someone who's ignorant, but you can't teach someone who already thinks they understand. So the real enemy of knowledge, the one that sneaks into our minds and locks the doors from the inside, is not ignorance. It's the illusion of knowledge. It's the echo in your brain that tells you, you've got this, don't worry, even when you don't. It flatters you, it comforts you, and then it quietly kills your curiosity.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Think about it. How many times have we read a headline and thought we understood the story? How often do we scan a few social media posts and form a strong opinion? And yet, when pressed, we can't explain the details. We can't trace our thoughts back to their source. We've absorbed a belief, not built it. We've mistaken familiarity for understanding. That's not knowledge. That's mimicry. And mimicry is cheap. It's everywhere. It's the fast food of the intellect, satisfying in the moment, but it leaves your mind malnourished. Real knowledge takes time. It takes effort. It takes doubt. Doubt is critical. Doubt is the soil in which real knowledge grows. Without it, we become rigid, unteachable, and dangerously overconfident. Because here's where the illusion of knowledge becomes deadly, when it gives us confidence without competence. That's the most dangerous place to be. You act boldly, you speak loudly, but you're wrong. And the worst part, you don't know you're wrong. You can't know because your mind has already closed the case. So let me ask you this, when was the last time you truly questioned your own certainty? Not out of fear, but out of wisdom? Now imagine this on a global scale. Millions of people going through life with opinions they never questioned, beliefs they inherited but never examined. And they're certain. That's the scary part. Not that people are uninformed, but that they're convinced they're informed when they're not. That's the illusion of knowledge at work, and it's everywhere from politics to science, from religion to identity. It feeds our egos, it flatters our tribes, and it gives us the false comfort of knowing. But in reality, it cuts us off from deeper understanding. It builds walls where there should be windows. We need to start seeing doubt not as weakness but as strength. Socrates, one of the wisest humans who ever lived, famously said, "I know that I know nothing." Think about that. He was wise because he doubted himself. He was open, curious, willing to be wrong. And in that openness, he found deeper truths. So what do? How do we escape the illusion of knowledge? First, we have to admit that we're all vulnerable to it. No one is immune. Not me, not you, not even the experts. In fact, sometimes the more we know, the more we assume we know everything. That's the Dunning-Kruger effect in action. The less we know, the more confident we are. And the more we know, the more we see how much we don't know. So here's a question for you. What do you believe right now that might be completely wrong? What truth do you hold that you've never seriously questioned? Sit with that. It's uncomfortable, I know. But it's the first step toward real knowledge. Because if we want to grow wiser, we have to go deeper than the surface. And that means letting go of our need to be right. It means embracing the unknown, the uncertain, the unresolved. It means choosing curiosity over certainty. Here's a challenge. The next time you feel certain about something, stop. Ask yourself, what do I really know about this? Where did I learn it? Can I explain it clearly? Have I considered the opposite viewpoint? That's how you begin to break the spell of illusion. That's how you start to see clearly again. Because knowledge isn't just about facts, it's about mindset. It's about being open, humble, and relentlessly curious. The illusion of knowledge shuts that down. It replaces wonder with arrogance. But if we stay open, if we stay hungry, we can keep growing, keep learning, and maybe, just maybe, become wiser. But now let's go deeper. Because this illusion doesn't just affect individuals, it shapes entire societies. The way we educate, the way we vote, the way we relate to each other. The illusion of knowledge creates echo chambers where everyone agrees and no one questions. It creates tribal thinking where disagreement feels like betrayal. And it creates intellectual laziness where slogans replace thinking and headlines replace truth. We start to value being right over being wise. We stop listening. We stop asking. We stop growing. We see this in politics, where complex issues are reduced to sound bites. We see it in science, where people quote studies they haven't read. We see it in spirituality, where beliefs are inherited rather than discovered. And we see it in ourselves every time we choose comfort over curiosity. So the real enemy of knowledge isn't just illusion, it's intellectual pride. It's the voice that says, I've arrived. I don't need to question anymore. But real philosophers, real seekers of truth, never stop questioning. They live in the tension of uncertainty. They know that the more you learn, the more mysterious the world becomes. And here's where things get wild. Sometimes what we call knowledge is actually just control, a way to feel safe in a chaotic world. We crave answers because they give us stability. But life isn't stable. It's changing, unpredictable, and sometimes the deepest truths can't be put into words. They have to be lived, experienced, felt. So what happens when we let go of the illusion of knowledge? What happens when we admit that we don't know? That we can't know? That's when the real journey begins. That's when the mind opens and the heart follows. So I'll leave you with this. What if the most dangerous thing in your life isn't what you don't know, but what you think you know? What if your greatest prison is your own certainty? And what would happen if you broke free? The seduction of certainty, how the mind clings to false truths like a religion. Let's not lie to ourselves. Certainty feels good. It's warm. It's safe. It's like standing on solid ground while the rest of the world drowns in chaos. But here's the trap. That solid ground may be nothing more than a beautifully painted illusion. And the stronger we cling to it, the more blind we become to truth. Certainty is seductive because it offers us control. It whispers, "You're right, you're smart, you figured it out." And our ego, hungry for validation, drinks it up like water in a desert. But what if certainty doesn't make us powerful? What if it makes us fragile? You see, the moment we become certain, we stop listening, we stop observing, we stop learning. We build walls of belief around us, and everything that doesn't fit gets rejected, not because it's false, but because it's inconvenient. Certainty creates a filter. We start looking at the world not as it is, but as we want it to be. And this is where things get dangerous. Because when new information contradicts our beliefs, we don't adapt. We defend, we rationalize, we twist the facts until they fit the narrative we're emotionally invested in. Let me ask you this: have you ever found yourself arguing not because you were certain, but because you were afraid to be wrong? That's not strength. That's insecurity dressed as confidence. And the more we do it, the more we turn our minds into echo chambers where doubt is exiled and certainty reigns like a king. But a king who rules by fear, not wisdom. And that's the dark side of certainty. It becomes dogma. It becomes ideology. It becomes religion, not in the spiritual sense, but in the psychological one. We turn our ideas into idols. And once that happens, we don't just believe them, we worship them. Now pause and think, what beliefs have you made sacred in your own mind? What ideas are you unwilling to question, not because they're true, but because they've become part of your identity? That's the seduction of certainty. It doesn't just shape what we think, it shapes who we think we are. It fuses knowledge with ego. So when our ideas are challenged, we feel like we are being attacked. That's why debates on politics, religion, or even science get so heated. It's not logic vs. logic. It's ego vs. ego, identity vs. identity. And in that battlefield, truth becomes a casualty. But here's the paradox. The people most certain they are right are often the ones most wrong. History is full of examples, entire societies that were absolutely sure the earth was flat, or that one race was superior to another, or that witches caused disease. Certainty didn't protect them from error, it guaranteed it. And what's terrifying is that they weren't evil. They were convinced. That's the power of illusion reinforced by certainty. It doesn't just mislead, it deforms reality. And the worst part? It feels so right. It's like being drunk on your own thoughts. And yet, we keep drinking. Why? Because uncertainty feels like death. The human brain hates ambiguity. It wants closure. It wants patterns. It wants meaning, even if that meaning is false. That's why conspiracy theories are so addictive. They provide simple answers to complex problems. They give us someone to blame. They make us feel like we're in the know, even when we're being deceived. And the more emotionally invested we are, the harder it becomes to let go. We don't just cling to the belief we need it. It becomes our armor against the chaos of life. But what if we didn't need that armor? What if we could walk through uncertainty without fear? That's what real wisdom is. Not the accumulation of facts, but the ability to live in the unknown without collapsing. Think of the great philosophers Socrates, Confucius, Lao Tzu, Buddha. None of them claimed to have all the answers. In fact, they warned against those who did, because they understood that truth is not a possession, it's a pursuit. And that pursuit requires humility, openness, and above all, the courage to be wrong. So let me ask you something radical. What if being wrong is not a failure, but a path? What if every moment of doubt is not a threat, but an invitation? What if truth is not something you own, but something you chase, endlessly, joyfully, humbly? That changes everything. Suddenly, contradiction isn't a problem, it's a clue. Disagreement isn't a threat, it's an opportunity. And discomfort isn't a sign to retreat, it's a sign you're growing. But this doesn't come naturally. We live in a world that rewards certainty. Politicians who speak with confidence get elected even if they're wrong. Influencers who shout their opinions get followers even if they're uninformed. And people who admit they don't know, they get mocked, ignored, dismissed. But here's the truth. In a world drunk on certainty, doubt is revolutionary. Doubt is not weakness, it's intellectual rebellion. It's the refusal to be seduced by easy answers. It's a declaration that truth matters more than comfort. And the most powerful way to resist the illusion of knowledge is to fall in love with questions. Not just any questions, beautiful, dangerous, unanswerable questions. Questions that stretch your mind and unsettle your soul. Questions like, what is truth if everyone sees it differently? What does it mean to be free? Can we ever escape our own biases? What if everything I believe is just a mirror of my fears? These questions don't give us certainty. They give us depth. They pull us out of the shallows of opinion and into the ocean of understanding. They remind us that reality is bigger than ideology, that truth is bigger than tribes, and that our minds were made not for echo chambers, but for exploration. But exploration takes courage. It means admitting your map might be wrong. It means setting out into the unknown without a guarantee of return. It means letting go of the need to be right so you can be free. That's the price of truth. And it's the price most people aren't willing to pay. Most people want comfort over clarity. They want confirmation over confrontation. They want to feel smart, not be wise. And so they settle. They build shrines to their beliefs and call it knowledge. But all they've done is trap themselves in a beautifully decorated prison. So what's the way out? How do we escape this seductive lie? First, cultivate intellectual humility. Know that your mind is fallible, that your beliefs are provisional, that your current worldview is not the final draft. Second, practice epistemic courage, the bravery to say I don't know in a world that demands certainty. And third, surround yourself with people who challenge you not to win arguments, but to help you see. People who ask questions you've never thought of. People who aren't afraid to think differently. People who love truth more than comfort. Because truth is not fragile. It doesn't need to be protected. It only needs to be pursued. And the pursuit never ends. That's what makes it beautiful. That's what makes it worth it. So the next time you feel absolutely certain about something, pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, what would it cost me to be wrong about this? And then listen, not to defend, not to argue, but to understand. The illusion of knowledge will always try to pull you back. It will whisper, you already know. Don't question, don't doubt. But you have a choice. You can choose the path of the philosopher, the seeker, the questioner, the humble learner. And that path, though harder, leads to something rare in this world, wisdom. Here's the irony that most people miss. The wisest people don't claim to know everything, they claim to know less. But not because they're ignorant, because they see complexity. They've stared into the depths of reality and come back humbled. They realize that life, truth, and meaning aren't puzzles to be solved, but mysteries to be lived. And in that humility, something magical happens. Real knowledge begins. Not the kind that shouts with arrogance, but the kind that listens with awe. You see, the more we learn, the more we realize how much we don't know. That's the wisdom paradox. The deeper you go, the more vast and mysterious the universe becomes. It's like climbing a mountain when you're at the base. The peak looks clear. But the higher you get, the more clouds you see, the more peaks beyond the peak. And you start to understand there is no final summit. There is only climbing, only discovery, only wonder. But wonder requires surrender. Surrender of ego. Surrender of narrative. Surrender of the illusion that we've arrived. Too many people want to possess truth, but truth isn't a thing you can hold. It's a direction, a posture, a way of being in the world that's open, flexible, and brave. Because yes, it takes bravery to say, I don't know. It takes strength to say, let me listen. And it takes wisdom to sit in the tension of uncertainty without rushing to conclusions. Think about the people you respect most, not for their power, but for their depth. The ones who speak not to impress, but to illuminate. They don't dominate conversations. They ask better questions. They aren't threatened by opposing views, they're curious about them. That's wisdom. That's the fruit of a mind that has let go of the illusion of knowledge and chosen the path of truth instead. So I'll leave you with this. What kind of person do you want to be? One who clings to certainty out of fear? Or one who walks into the unknown with courage and humility? The real enemy of knowledge isn't ignorance. It's the false belief that we've already arrived, that there's nothing more to explore, that we've got it all figured out. But we don't. And that's okay, because the moment we admit that, we begin. Now ask yourself, what are you still pretending to know? Let that question echo. Let it unsettle you.